Okay, guys, welcome back to the channel, the Tip Trillions channel. First of all, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, okay? We are on the better and better life mindset. We are constantly in the pursuit of the better and better life. So what we're doing is we're thinking about things and we're constantly trying to figure out what we can do in our pursuit of the better and better life. Being happy, being healthy, being wealthy. Okay, so I was talking earlier a little bit, and we fell back onto this topic: NLP, neurological linguistics programming. NLP. So Essential NLP is an incredible book. And what is NLP? What the heck is that? Well, all of us, for example, communicate, whether we mean to or not. And I discussed this a little bit earlier over on another channel, but all of us communicate whether we mean to or not. How? Well, we don't necessarily have to talk. As we all know, we can give all types of code and we can give all types of suggestions just based on how we're sitting. What type of look do we have on our face? What type of energy are we exuding? There's so much associated with that. So, what does that have to do? I always ask this question. I like to ask this question. What does that have to do with the better and better life? What does that have to do with being happy, with being healthy, with being wealthy? Well, it has everything to do with it because we have the ability, and Essential NLP talks a lot about this, we have the ability to reprogram our thinking. We have the ability to reprogram, they call it remap your mind. How is it that you handle things? How is it that you look at things? What words do you use? How do you go about your descriptive measure? They talk a lot in the book about understanding how to identify who you are based on your perspective. Your perspective of things makes all the difference in the world. What I had to do as a person that went through a traumatic loss. I've talked about this before. A lot of you guys know. I lost my wife to breast cancer. So we were together for a long time. We were together for many years, a decade and a half. And that's a long time, relative. We talked about Stephen Hawking's and his theory of relativity. Me being now 45 years old, 15 years is a pretty good chunk of my life. So how did I have to reprogram to not just sit around and feel sorry for myself? Having 3 kids that depended on me, depended on dad. My kids had never been to a public school, still haven't been to a public school. My kids are very much this is a very tight-knit family and we love each other, we take care of each other, and everybody does, but we have our own way of doing things as a family. So what were the steps that I took? And part of that, somebody gave me NLP, Justin Breedlove. I talked about him a little bit yesterday as one of my mentors in fitness and diet and that type of thing. We were talking yesterday about the Harvard diet, and you have to go check that out. It's a silly video, but it's I think you'll get the point. But anyway, I digress. The thought was here. We have to understand why it is that we may need to reprogram our minds for whatever reason. Maybe it's something that's traumatic. We've seen people raise up from the most incredible set of circumstances that all the odds were stacked against them, and they still figured out a way to be successful. Thankfully, we have a number of different businesses. You guys know we have Nodhead Records. I have a different hat on, but you guys have asked about that Nodhead Records hat. You guys know we have Abnormalized, which is a business that we use as an artist merchandising company. So, making apparel for musicians and, musical artists. And we'll get into all that stuff. We have other things. We have lots of time to talk about it because YouTube gave me this platform. So think about it like this. Whatever it is that you're doing, you are communicating, and we must communicate effectively in order to create that better and better life. Okay, how do we communicate effectively if we don't know that we're not communicating effectively? I love that expression. I know it's a cliche at this point, but we say, we don't know what it is that we don't know. What does that mean? Well, in this case, it means that we might not realize that we're tipping our hand, so to speak. They always talk about, I don't play really anything when it comes to gambling and stuff. I don't do that, but lots of people that I know do, and I don't do it for any reason. I just probably don't have the time. But people that play poker, they talk a lot about this guy. I know when he does this that he doesn't have any more good cards, or however the game works. I don't know. Or I know when he does this, or I know if he starts sweating. And these are tells. These are tells. These tell you, and these are the nonverbal communications that happen in every single business meeting and every single relationship. When she comes in and she's talking about this, she can tell if you're listening or not when you do that, right? These are things that can help us with being able to communicate better, which always circles back around to finding that life that just keeps getting better and better. Because if we can become better communicators, then we can become better at having a relationship. And if we become better at having a relationship, that transcends to not just the person that we're in love with or not just the person that we're building a life with, but it also can translate into where it is that we're doing business and with who. And what I mean by that is, once you're able to get into, in the business world, once you're able to start getting into a circle where you're invited to someone's home, or you're invited to play golf, or you're invited to do whatever it is that's outside of the typical business setting, that's why we say communication can determine where it is that you get to talk about business, where it is that you get to establish some of these better, more refined conversations. In NLP, understanding how to read yourself, understanding what type of energy you're exuding, understand what it is that you're saying, and being able to remap your mind so that you can correct those tells. I love this. There's a bunch of different points, and they have 10 key points, but I love it here where he says, we take the world through our five senses, or they are known as NLP modalities, okay? We take in the world, I should say, we take in the world through our five senses. So we all remember the five senses, right? You can see one, hopefully you can hear. Thankfully, we can do that. And then everything that's associated with our feelings associated with that, right? That's how it is that we're absorbing the world. I talked a little bit last week about Jay-Z going out with his dad in Coney Island, and his dad would say, hey, don't just take in the people, take in all the places as well. Take in all the places. This is huge. This is using your five senses. Wait a minute. Here's successful people that are telling us different ways to remap your mind, the recoding. If you're trying to download something into your computer, and they say, I'm not a computer person, but it says, well, your software is not up to, this isn't the latest software. We've seen that message, and then you got to go do this, and you got to download that, and you got to maybe go buy a new computer. Well, in this case, you can't buy a new brain. But what you can do is you can remap it and you can reorganize it so you can now download the new information. That means we have to open up. I like to ask people, I say, and people don't know where I'm going with this, but I say, who is it that Kanye West was married to? And they go, oh, it was, I don't even know, Kim Kardashian. And I go, oh, okay. They said, well, cool. Man, what's Jay-Z's wife's name again? And everybody knows. Everybody knows. It's Beyonce. My kids know. My 5-year-old knows. It's Beyonce. Okay. These are things that aren't going to help you out. Unless you're interested in doing some sort of trivial pursuit type game or whatever they have on, and they're going to ask you these types of questions, and they're going to be, I don't know, they're going to put some money in your pocket, that type of way. But what are the odds? What are the chances that you're actually going to be able to utilize this information in a way that's going to be valuable? And the odds probably aren't very good. So when we get into remapping, we start to substitute information. We start to substitute things that can be valuable for what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And remember, I know I'm saying things that you know. I know that I'm saying things that you're 100% aware of, but that's my job to tell you. We say we tell them, and then we tell them again, right? So it's my job to tell you so that as you're building your business, as you're building your relationship, as you're figuring out how to be healthy, which probably circles back to, hey, let's be happy, let's be healthy, let's be wealthy, and everything starts to fall in line in our pursuit to the better and better life. It's that simple. So NLP assists us with an overall reconfiguration, or as they say, a remapping of the mind. And Essential NLP breaks that down for us. It's tremendous. I've talked about, and I'll talk about some books sometimes that aren't necessarily the easiest to read. Far from, not to insult anybody, because I like simple reading as well. But sometimes it's just fun, or just read something that just flow through, and I don't have to think a whole lot. It just gets, just spelled out for me. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I think about it. I want to know what you think about it. I'll give you some key points. I'll tell you why it's interesting. I'll tell you why it can help. And then I'll suggest that you add it to your library. Books, I like to think about them like like songs. People say, well, I read that book and I read every word and it was outstanding and I read it and I read it and I read it. And I'm like, what do you do? Who cares? What are you doing with the information that you learned? Did you just listen to that song and you listen to every single word and I know the song and I heard it and I know every note and every key? That's not the case. You couldn't tell me, unless you're into music theory, you couldn't tell me what key that song, it doesn't work like that. But you can still love the song and you don't know every word, but you still loved it. And maybe sometimes when you were listening to the song, somebody else was talking to you, or maybe you were driving, or maybe you took a phone call and it was playing lightly in the background. And reading can be that way too. And you can still take it in. And then you can come back to it. Just like you can come back to that song and you can listen again, you can come back to a book and you can read it again and you can read interesting parts of it again. And you can allow that to effectively help you reestablish mapping your mind to a place that it becomes effective in this pursuit of the better life, the better and better life, excuse me. And think about this. One last thing I want to kind of share before I let you go today, before we move on and we go out there and we continue our pursuit for the better and better life. And before we get to that point where we think we know everything, understand that there's nobody. I don't care who you are. Every single one of these multi-billionaire business people, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create more wealth, even if it's for the purposes of philanthropy. Creating more wealth is part of that pursuit. That's the better and better life. So they're engaged. They're part of our club. They're part of our group, whether they realize it or not. Okay? So listen, love each other, take care of each other. Let's stay on the pursuit of the better and better life. Let's figure out how to be happy, how to be healthy, how to be wealthy. And remember, you have to be happy first, and that will be followed by your health. And you got to be happy first, and that will allow you to create wealth for yourself. Okay? So come back and see me. Please like this video, share this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. All right? Peace.